What's up guys, this is Wenzes. Welcome back to my channel. Today we're having another revival video of the videos INFJ, INTP relationship. There's an older video out, I think it's now 3 or 4 years old, but there's like a lot of valuable information there if you just want to get like a first look. But this one is, 3-4 years later. So me having so much more experience with this, I haven't even been so much into MBTI lately. This is just like supposed to be like a fun, back to back, but it still is very interesting if you want to like look into this, because I actually dated an INTP last year, so 2017, beginning of 2018. And I learned so much, like my perception of INTPs changed so much because of course in the end, as I said, I dated. It could have been very amicable, but it wasn't in the end. It wasn't really good for me, but I don't say this is because this was an INTP. I'm not saying this was because I was an INFJ and that was an INTP. That was just a personal thing between me and the other person. But still, if you spend so much time with somebody, you just get a different and a much better look, of course, at the personality type. And now when I talk to other INTPs, a lot of my followers are INTPs, or if I meet people, I just approach them in a different way, because every relationship I start, no matter if it's, as I said, romantic, if it's work relationships, if it's friendship, I always want to set them up in a way that they can be sustainable, that they can really reach a great point where I'm like happy with the friendship, the relationship, whatever it is, and the other person is that way. And if you don't do that, then it can like backfire real quickly. And I just don't I don't have the time for that. Like seriously, there's just not that much time within my day. I'm doing way too much to be wasting my time with these things. And so I approach things very strategically without even thinking about it. It's just like I know how INTPs are as a preference, and I kind of like it. I just approach them differently. So the first thing that comes to my mind is INTPs are generally in their own world, and it's different than INFJs being in their own world because of two reasons. Number one, the INTP's first function is introverted thinking, which is a judging function. So every time you have a judging function, or you have those introverted judgers, so to say, bear with me because this is going into socionics and so on. I don't want to, confuse you with too much detail. But the main point is the first function is a judging function. So that is the first preference. So, and every time you have a first function, which is a judging function, you're always holding on to something when you're by yourself, when you're in your most natural state. And when you have a perceiving function as your first function, how it is with INFJs, for example, you're more of just, you're in the moment, you're living it out. And so when I was less developed, or in general, if I, was at a stress level, or I'm just, relaxed totally, I'm way more impressionable than an INTP ever could. And this is not just an FE is more important than T, I think. This is mostly because a judging function as a first function, you're in your world and you stick with that. And something has to happen for you actively have to say, I'm looking out, I'm going to use my NE, I want to broaden my horizon through that person. And the INTP actively has to pay attention to that one person and think that this person is going to add value to them, or if it's a person or if it's a situation. But that's something they have to actively decide. With me, if I'm not careful, and as I said, when I was younger, this happened more often, and I had let's say FE stuff, emotional atmospheres that were just intriguing to me. So meaning I had people in my life that just seemed so exciting, and they were full of those emotions, everything that you imagine with FE in general, just livelihood, and it just seemed so happy and so nice and so vivid. I was directly drawn to that because my first function is a perceiving function. So I naturally am being, focused on something else because I perceive and then I judge. So then I decide, oh, this is so interesting. I want this. Let me go there and see what's out there. So as I said, with INTP, it's not that way. So if you come together and you don't have the same interest, you can, the only way this could actually work is if really both INTP and the INFJ are very developed and they want to make it happen, so they actually really focus actively on each other, or if both are pretty much not developed, and that means in a way the INTP stays in their world, in their thinking world, and the INFJ like takes on the thinking of the INTP, because in the end this can be very beneficial, right? I mean, the INTP has a very strong introverted thinking. This is something that we want to have more clarity in our lives, so then we can, relax more. But if the way of thinking or the value system or whatever it is that the INTP lives with doesn't work with you, why would you go there? It doesn't make sense. So for me, I didn't think that the INTP I was dating had the best thoughts and mindsets, not just for me, but for him. I thought it was so obvious that my life is better than his. Why should we concentrate on his world when he can come to my world, emotionally, I'm talking about mentally, emotionally, all of that, when he could focus on my world, and that would make him happier, right? Because I was a much happier person. I was, in a completely different mindset. But, if you're so fixated on your own truth, you cannot get out, and you don't want to get out. And I think it's easier, of course, for people with first perceiving functions to make that switch than it is for people who have a judging function as their first function. So, but that doesn't mean that it can't happen if you do have the same value system. So if you meet, let's say, an INTP and you're both having the same interest, and that person actually wants to have more of your energy because they want to be have more of that extroverted feeling, they want to have more of the excitement, and they are more open to kind of let go of all their internal value systems, a little bit at least, to be open to your world, then it can it can be great. The INTP can benefit a lot from the INFJ and vice versa. So INTPs, I think, in a lot of ways like that INFJs are more more open to adventures and to seeing things and being more in emotion, in expressing themselves, and just being carefree. The INTPs that I have met have been very strict in who they are, and they want to have some kind of relief, but it's difficult for them to get there because they get into these dominant territory loops. We've had them all, for them. So it's TISI. So everything that you've known all your life, you can get stuck in it, and it's difficult to get out. And so if you have somebody who's more, let's say, an INFJ, or just a feeler in general, they're more likely to do that because it's it opens them up, and then the intuition, it's just an open space, so to say. But it won't work, as I said, if you do not have the same value systems. And for me, that was the case. And no matter what I did, I could not convince him at all that it makes sense to, switch a little bit more to my side. There was no way. And I was that developed at that point that I knew I'm not going to go into his world, because his world was self-destructive. He was not that happy. It just, it was so obvious to me. And then, it's kind of I didn't want to, I didn't want to do the work. I didn't want to be the one who goes into his world. And so it never ever worked out, because the INTP is not going to do it by themselves if you don't have the same value system. But they will want you to come to them. So if, as I said, if you have the same, if everything works out, you have the same value systems, you care about the same things, great. If you don't expect the INTP to make any kind of movements towards your world if it's really obviously different. I mean, you know me, you know that I am, out there. I'm not the typical, I stay quiet and do my thing kind of person. I really express what is important to me and how much I dislike rules and anything like that. And the INTP, they have to actively want that in their life. Otherwise, it's just not going to happen. And when it comes to when we look at it from more of a, functions point of view, let me think. So as I said, they actually, the INTP actually likes the NE part in us. So the extroverted intuition, which is more like more dominant once you're more like in your extroverted functions. It is a shadow function, but it's still strong, like you can feel it. And mostly this is what I saw when like the INTP was interested in my world. It was just because I just saw things so differently than him and just broadened his horizon. It was never that I got into like deep meaningful relationships that go into depth like the NI world would make it, right? That's just not what happened. At the same time, like as I said, I really valued the strong TI. It helped me to kind of relax, but it was when we were in his world, which was like pretty much the working world. So since we were working together, and at that point, like I could kind of like rely on him in that world to like some extent, but it was just like a partial world of me. It was not something I was gonna, that would work for me the long run. And the moment I quit my job, it just didn't work at all. Because then it became just obvious that, he's not gonna go into my world, although he always said kind of things like, yeah, it's not like he said, we're gonna go into your world. But you know what I mean? Like, I think, like, to this day, that my world is just awesome. Like, I think if you really spend time with me, if you're like really a close person next to me, your life will get better, because I really make sure that I'm happy and blissful, and that I do so much, like I work so much on myself to be happy and to be consistent with everything that I do. So if you allow me to help you to get into this world, it'll be better. But he kind of like just made it look like he's really interested, but like you could tell it wasn't really the case, because the moment, as I said, the moment I quit my job and we didn't have this same world, which was his, he didn't make the effort to go into my world. Later, he was upset about me saying, "I'm sorry, that's not enough for me," and so on. But that's like a different story. Doesn't really have anything to do with the relationship. Like the INTP INFJ relationship. But of course, I have to say, when it got more intense, and the moment I said, listen, that's not enough for me, I need more attention, and sorry, he did freak out. Like you can kind of say, okay, maybe that's like somebody who has like inferior extroverted feeling, that they can't handle it too well. Like he reacted in a way where I thought, really, like that's so petty. Like I cannot believe that a grown man would ever act like this. But I don't know, like this is not something I could ever say it's INTPs. Like I would never dare to say that, because I just think it's unfair and just like a complete generalization. Nonetheless, I can understand that having that FE as your inferior function makes it kind of like difficult. So if you're in an over stressful situation, this is the thing that's probably gonna fall down, and you're not gonna care about it so much, right? You just can't handle it. It's like the same thing with me. If I'm in a really, really stressful situation, my first thing is like to retreat. I'm not, putting out my SE and being assertive and all of that. That's just not what you do when you're in a stressful situation. When you're calm, you can kind of make it happen, but it's, not really, as I said, in like stressful situations that really get the best of you. Let me think what else. So FE, we talked about that. So that my FE, it was nice, like he liked the FE part about me, but as I said, not enough to like get away out of his head. But I think like the main reason is I'm just not adaptive. Like FE, like the whole FETI relationship, if you look at it from that perspective, is a lot, especially since like the polar opposite, or like the best partner for an INTP would be an ESFJ, is they adapt. Like the ESFJ would love to adapt the thinking of the INTP, and to adapt the whole FE thinking, like the ESFJ to take on the FE thinking, meaning the emotional state is created by the feeler and the thinking part is created by the thinker. So my third function is TI. So in general, if we're not careful, we value TI too much. Like it said, the most healthy thing is for us to go into our second function first. But I was not giving up my TI. And I think that was the main issue, because you want to feel respected for who you are. And the INTP in general, TI, their value system, that's what most important to them. And then if somebody comes up to them and is like, yeah, I like you, but I want you to change the main thing about you for me to actually respect you enough. How do you want somebody to react? Of course, it's not going to work out. But of course, I couldn't do it any different way. If that was just like, let's say, a colleague or somebody that I would be friends with, this would be a different thing. I would respect them for what they want in their life and the way they see their life, no matter, even if I thought like that's not healthy, but that's for them to decide. But that was a person who was like supposed to be close to me, and that would have an effect on my life. And when it comes down to it, it's the most important thing that you do care about what effect it has on you, because if it hasn't, like when it doesn't have a good effect on you, it will not have a good effect on the other person or on, on the entire situation. So that's why I didn't give up my TI, and that was, I think, our main friction point. So NE and I, as I said, I talked about that. When it comes to SI, SE, like that whole aspect was really weird because, as you know, like INTPs, they don't value SE at all. There was none of this like external assertive force that I actually love so much, but it was good for me because I thought like, I don't want to project that much anymore. I want to do everything myself. There are certain things I want to, have help with, like from my partner, so to say. But SE was something that I didn't need in my, in my partner anymore, that I would think like that's a necessity for me. But in general, like that is one of those things why people like me, that they see, oh, okay, she actually has a lot of power behind her and she does her thing and so on. And he couldn't even see that. So he couldn't even value that. And on the other hand, SI, it was never ever the fact that I thought differently than it is or was with ENTPs. I never ever felt like he would want me to be more SE in a way to take care of him at all. But at the same time, like, for him, and I do not know how it is with all INTPs, but I know for him, he cared a lot about having everything in order. So that guy, like his closet, his suitcase, everything's just like perfectly done. And he saw that I was like a little bit more, free spirit, like free flowing. And I am actually a person who's really tidied up and so on. But actually, I like that. Like, I like that he was like this. And it made me more, be more like this as well. So that was something I enjoyed a lot. So that's my take on INTPs, looking now with a personal anecdote at everything. So let me know in the comments what you think about that, how the video helped you, what you would like to know more of. I will not be doing these videos continuously. So the next one is going to be about, goal setting for 2019 and how actually I stick to my goals, like when I make them and so on. So that's going to be a really nice thing. I'm really excited about that. But just so you know, it will happen. I'll probably do all of them, but they will be not like chronologically one after the other in a row. So thank you very much for watching. I wish you a great day, guys. And if you see this before Christmas, have happy holidays, and I talk to you next time.